November 4, 1942. Dusk falls over the scorched sands of El Alamein, Egypt. The air vibrates with the distant rumble of artillery, like thunder that never ends. General Wilhelm Ritter von Thoma, commander of the Afrika Korps Armored Forces, grips the turret of his burning Panzer III, acrid smoke stinging his eyes. Bullets whine past, kicking up dust devils in the fading light. His tank lurches to a halt, engine coughing its last breath under a hail of British fire. He can taste the metallic tang of defeat, feel the heat radiating from the twisted metal beneath him. Von Thoma climbs out, hands raised, his field gray uniform caked in desert grit. British Tommies emerge from the haze, tall, grim figures in khaki, rifles leveled. "Hand hock!" one shouts, his Cockney accent slicing through the chaos. Von Thoma, 51 years old, a veteran of Spain and Poland, stands tall, his iron cross glinting in the sunset. He expected death in this godforsaken wasteland, not surrender. But here it is, raw and inescapable. The soldiers pat him down, relieving him of his Luger, their faces etched with exhaustion but lit by victory. You can almost hear the silence that follows, the cease of gunfire, the heavy breathing of men who've danced with death. Von Thoma is marched to a waiting jeep, wrists bound loosely with rope that chafes like a bad omen. In the distance, Field Marshal Bernard Montgomery's 8th Army presses on, shattering Rommel's lines. Von Thoma glances back at the wreckage, his once mighty tanks reduced to smoldering hulks under the relentless Allied assault. What now? Interrogation? A quick trial? He steels himself for the worst, mind racing through propaganda tales of British barbarity. Night descends as he's driven to a makeshift command post, floodlights casting long shadows. Montgomery himself awaits, a wiry figure with a beret tilted just so. They dine simple rations but civil. Von Thoma speaks in clipped English, masking his unease. "The desert is unforgiving," Monty says, sipping tea. Von Thoma nods, but inside, turmoil brews. Captured. A general, no less. The Führer's wrath will be legendary. But as he's led away to a holding tent, guarded by stoic sentries, a whisper of curiosity creeps in. Where will they take him? To some dismal prison in the sands? Days blur in Cairo, brief interrogations, sparse meals. Then the order comes, transport to Britain. Von Thoma boards a C-47 Dakota under heavy guard, the propellers roaring to life. As the plane lifts off, banking over the Mediterranean, he peers out the window at the receding coastline. Enemy soil awaits. What horrors lie across the channel? Nazi radio has painted Britain as a bombed-out ruin, its people starving under the Luftwaffe's hammer. But as the flight drones on, a seed of doubt takes root. Is it all true? The plane dips lower as they approach the English coast, and Von Thoma presses his face to the glass. What he sees next will shatter everything he thought he knew. Late November 1942. The Dakota's engines drone steadily as it skirts the Atlantic, evading U-boat shadows far below. General Wilhelm Ritter von Thoma sits shackled in the dim fuselage, flanked by silent British guards, their Tommy guns resting casually across their knees. The air is thick with the smell of aviation fuel and damp wool. Hours stretch into eternity. Von Thoma's mind replays the desert defeat, the burning tanks, Montgomery's unexpected courtesy over dinner. Propaganda reels echo in his head. Britain a starving island, its cities reduced to rubble by the Luftwaffe's relentless raids, its people gaunt and broken. A guard nudges him. "Nearly there, General." Von Thoma peers through the small window as clouds part. Below, the English coast emerges. Not the scarred wasteland he envisioned, but a patchwork of emerald fields, neat hedgerows slicing through lush farmland like veins on a living map. Villages nestle in valleys, church spires piercing the gray sky. Smoke curls lazily from chimneys. Cows graze in pastures that seem impossibly green after the barren sands of Africa. He blinks, disbelieving. This is the enemy heartland? No craters from Stukas, no blackened ruins. Roads wind through the countryside, lined with trees heavy with late autumn leaves. Trains puff along tracks, hauling goods as if no war rages. You can almost smell the damp earth, the rich soil turned by plows, fields bursting with crops, orchards laden despite rationing tales blared over Berlin radio. The plane banks toward an airfield near London, wheels touching down with a jolt. Von Thoma is hustled out into chill English air, sharp and clean after the desert's grit. Guards march him to a waiting truck, but not before he catches more. Civilians going about their days, women in coats pushing prams, men in flat caps cycling to work. No desperation in their strides. Factories hum in the distance, smokestacks belching. Not from bombs, but production. As the truck rumbles toward temporary holding, Von Thoma stares out. Hedgerows bloom with wildflowers even now. Farms teem, haystacks neatly piled, livestock fat and healthy. Goebbels' broadcasts had screamed of blockade starvation, of a nation on its knees. Yet here abundance mocks those lies. A knot forms in his throat. Doubt creeps in like fog off the channel. By December, after brief interrogations, Von Thoma is transferred north, to Trent Park, a grand country mansion requisitioned for high-ranking captives. The drive reveals more. Rolling hills, ancient oaks, villages with pubs spilling light into twilight. Other generals will soon join. Men like Ludwig Cruel, captured earlier in the desert. But Von Thoma is among the first from Africa. As the gates of Trent Park close behind him, the opulence hits harder than any interrogation. Manicured lawns, ornate rooms, servants bringing tea. This is no prison, it's a gilded cage. And outside those windows, more of that impossible green England, untouched, thriving. But one general's reaction would echo loudest in the months to come. A man who saw it all and carried the truth back across the channel. December 1942. Frost glints on the manicured lawns of Trent Park, a sprawling red-brick mansion north of London, its Georgian elegance untouched by war. General Wilhelm Ritter von Thoma steps from the staff car, boots crunching on gravel, breath fogging in the crisp morning air. Guards in greatcoats escort him through wrought iron gates that close with a soft, final clang. He pauses, taking in the sight. Sweeping gardens, ancient cedars, a lake shimmering under weak winter sun. This is no barbed wire stockade. This is aristocracy. Inside, polished oak panels gleam under chandeliers. A British officer, Major Airy Neve, crisp and courteous, greets him in fluent German. "Welcome to Trent Park, General. Your quarters are upstairs." Von Thoma is led to a spacious bedroom. Four-poster bed, writing desk, wardrobe already stocked with fresh uniforms tailored to his measurements. A fire crackles in the grate. Tea arrives on a silver tray, real tea, not the ersatz brew of the Reich. He sets the cup down untouched, suspicion warring with exhaustion. Days pass in a rhythm almost surreal. Breakfast in a sunlit dining room. Eggs, bacon, toast with butter and marmalade. Luxuries Berlin radio claimed had vanished from British tables years ago. Servants, German-speaking orderlies who are actually Mi-19 listeners. Clear plates with quiet efficiency. Afternoons bring walks in the grounds. Generals strolling arm in arm along tree-lined paths, debating strategy under the watchful eyes of hidden microphones buried in flower beds and disguised in table lamps. More arrivals come. General Ludwig Cruel, former commander of the Afrika Korps, lands in early 1943. His plane touching down after a similar flight over that impossible green landscape. Cruel, a tall Prussian with a monocle and sharp tongue, strides into Trent Park bristling with defiance. But within hours the cracks appear. Over dinner, roast beef, potatoes, gravy thick and rich. He leans toward Von Thoma and mutters in disbelief. "They told us the English were eating rats. Look at this." You can picture the scene. Candlelight flickering on silver cutlery, portraits of long-dead lords gazing down as captured generals devour meals that would feed a Berlin family for a week. Cruel stares out the tall windows at floodlit lawns where deer graze undisturbed. "No bombs here," he whispers. "No ruins. The propaganda. It was all lies." Von Thoma nods slowly. He has seen the same fields from the air, the same thriving farms. But hearing it from another senior officer makes it real. Doubt hardens into something sharper. Disillusion. Conversations grow bolder in the evenings. Brandy appears. Confiscated stocks, the British say with a wink. The generals gather in the common room. Maps spread on billiard tables, arguing over North Africa, Stalingrad, the Eastern Front's bleeding wound. Hidden microphones drink it all in. Every admission of supply shortages, every criticism of Hitler's strategy, every quiet acknowledgement that the war is slipping away. One night in early 1943, Krul stands at the window, staring into darkness. If the English can feed prisoners like this while fighting on 3 fronts, he says, voice low, what must they be feeding their own soldiers? Their workers. Silence falls. The question hangs like smoke. Von Thoma feels it deepest. He who dined with Montgomery in the desert, who saw the 8th Army's endless columns of trucks and tanks, now sits in luxury while his men rot in POW camps or die on frozen Russian steppes. The contrast gnaws. But the greatest shock is yet to come, one that will force even the most loyal officers to confront the abyss between propaganda and reality. March 17, 1943. A pale spring sun climbs over Trent Park, melting the last patches of frost. General Wilhelm Ritter von Thoma and General Ludwig Krul stand in the grand entrance hall, coats buttoned, scarves tucked neatly at their throats. A British officer, Captain Herbert Sulzbach, a German Jewish émigré with perfect Berlin manners, smiles warmly. Gentlemen, the War Office has approved a short excursion. Fresh air, a change of scene. Nothing strenuous. The two generals exchange wary glances. Excursion? From a prison camp? Von Thoma has walked the grounds 100 times, but never beyond the gates without blindfolds or heavy escort. Today, only 2 unarmed guards climb into the back of a dark green Humber staff car. Krul raises an eyebrow. Either they trust us, he mutters as the car pulls away, or they know we have nowhere to run. The Humber glides south through Hertfordshire lanes. Hedgerows burst with new green. Lambs bounce in fields like white clouds come to earth. You can almost smell the warm bread drifting from village bakeries as they pass. Children wave from cottage gates. An old man in a flat cap touches his forehead in greeting. No one spits. No one shouts, Nazi. The guards say nothing, letting the scenery do the talking. 20 miles on, the car slows at the edge of a bustling market town, Letchworth Garden City. Market day. The square teems with life. Stalls overflow. Golden wheels of cheddar, pyramids of apples, fresh-caught herring glistening on ice. Housewives fill wicker baskets, chatting easily. A butcher in a blood-stained apron slices roast beef thick enough to make a Berliner weep. Queues are short, smiles plentiful. Ration books flash, yes, but no one looks hungry. Krul's monocle nearly falls. He leans toward the window, mouth half open. Von Thoma feels his pulse quicken. This is no staged propaganda tour. Civilians everywhere, unguarded, living ordinary lives while their sons fight across half the globe. The car parks near the Broadway. Sulzbach turns in his seat. 10 minutes to stretch your legs, gentlemen. The tea room across the street has excellent scones. The guards stay with the car. For the first time since capture, Von Thoma and Krul walk a British street completely free. They move slowly, like men afraid the dream will vanish. A little girl in a red coat offers Krul a daffodil. He takes it, stunned, tucking the yellow bloom into his buttonhole. An elderly lady at the greengrocer nods politely. Lovely day, isn't it? She says in soft Hertfordshire tones. Krul manages a hoarse, "Ja, yes, very lovely." Inside the tea room, lace curtains flutter. Waitresses in starched aprons serve steaming pots of tea, scones split and dripping with clotted cream and strawberry jam. The generals eat in silence at first, then faster, almost greedily. Von Thoma wipes cream from his lip and whispers, "Ludwig, if this is what rationing looks like." Krul stares at the daffodil in his lapel. Then Goebbels is either a fool or a liar. Maybe both. Back in the car, neither man speaks for miles. The pretty villages slide past, but now every neat cottage, every well-fed horse, Every child's laughter feels like a slap. Von Thomas watches a train thunder by, carriages packed with civilians, not soldiers, windows bright with electric light. Krul finally breaks the silence. Wilhelm, do you realize what this means? The blockade isn't starving them. The bombing hasn't broken them. They are stronger than we ever admitted. As Trent Park's gates appear ahead, both generals sit straighter, faces hardened. The daffodil wilts slightly in Krul's buttonhole, but the image of that market square burns bright. Tonight, in the bugged common room, they will talk, and the hidden microphones will catch every word. Words that will travel straight to Churchill's desk. But one general, younger and more fiery than the rest, is about to arrive at Trent Park. When he hears what Krul and von Thomas saw today, his reaction will ignite a storm no British listener expects. June 12, 1943. A warm afternoon breeze drifts through the open windows of Trent Park, carrying the scent of cut grass and blooming roses. Generals von Thomas and Krul sit on the terrace with several others, sipping iced lemonade. An unimaginable luxury back home, when the crunch of tires on gravel announces a new arrival. A black Daimler pulls up. The rear door opens, and out steps a man who seems carved from granite. Tall, broad-shouldered, face tanned by North African sun, eyes burning with barely contained fury. General Hans Kramer, former commander of the Afrika Korps rearguard, captured only weeks ago during the final collapse in Tunisia. His uniform is still dusty from the desert, iron cross at his throat, cap clutched tightly in one gloved hand. At 47, he is younger than most here, and it shows in the coiled energy of his stride. British guards flank him, but Kramer barely notices. He scans the mansion, the manicured gardens, the relaxed posture of the other generals lounging in deck chairs, and his jaw tightens. Von Thomas rises to greet him, old comrades from the desert campaigns, but Kramer's handshake is stiff, his gaze suspicious. "So this is the famous British prison," he says loudly, voice edged with sarcasm. "I expected chains and bread crusts." That evening, in the dining room lit by soft electric lamps, Kramer sits ramrod straight while servants place roast lamb before him, mint sauce glistening, new potatoes steaming. He stares at the plate as though it might explode. Krul leans over. "Eat, Hans. It's real." Kramer takes one bite, then another, faster. His fork clatters. "How?" he demands in a fierce whisper. "How do they feed us like this? Tunis fell 6 weeks ago. We were told Britain was starving." Von Thomas and Krul exchange glances. This is the moment they have waited for. Quietly, over brandy in the common room, they recount the day trip to Letchworth. The market square brimming with food, the tea room with clotted cream, the civilians who smiled instead of cursed. They describe the green fields seen from the air, the trains running on time, the factories humming. Kramer listens, face growing darker with every word. When they finish, he slams his glass down so hard the hidden microphones jump. "Lies," he hisses. "Everything Goebbels told us, lies. The blockade is a joke. The bombing did nothing. They are not weak. They are winning." The room falls silent. Other generals shift uncomfortably. Some nod slowly. Others look away. But Kramer is not finished. He stands, pacing like a caged panther. "I saw their convoys in the desert. Endless trucks, fresh troops, fuel that never ran out. And we were down to captured petrol and patched tires. Yet Berlin kept saying England was finished." He stops at the window, staring out at the moonlit lawn. "If this island can produce all this while sending armies across the world," his voice cracks for the first time, "then Germany has already lost." The words hang heavy. No one contradicts him. Hidden listeners in the control room upstairs scribble furiously. British intelligence officers noting every syllable for transcription. These are not just tactical admissions. These are cracks in the foundation of the entire Nazi worldview. In the weeks that follow, Kramer becomes the spark. Late-night conversations grow bolder. Generals who once boasted of final victory now speak openly of defeat, of Hitler's strategic blunders, of the impossibility of fighting America, Britain, and Russia at once. The microphones capture it all, priceless intelligence that will shape Allied planning for Overlord and beyond. But one conversation, recorded on a quiet July evening between von Thoma and Kramer, will become the most famous of all, a moment when two proud Prussian officers admit the unthinkable out loud. July 21, 1943. A sultry summer evening settles over Trent Park, the air thick with the hum of bees and the distant clip of lawnmowers. The long twilight lingers, turning the sky a soft lavender. In the common room, heavy curtains drawn against the fading light, Generals Wilhelm Ritter von Thoma and Hans Kramer sit alone at a small table by the French windows. A half-empty bottle of cognac stands between them, French stock, liberated from some chateau cellar. The other generals have retired early, leaving these two desert veterans to their thoughts. Kramer pours another measure, the amber liquid catching the lamplight. His hand trembles slightly, not from drink, but from the weight of what he's carried since Tunisia. Von Thoma watches him, the older man's face lined deeper than ever. They speak in low voices, unaware that the crystal sconce above their heads hides one of the most sensitive microphones in the house. "You know what haunts me most, Wilhelm?" Kramer begins, staring into his glass. "It's not the defeat. It's the scale of the lie we were fed." Von Thoma nods, swirling his cognac. "I felt it the moment the plane crossed the coast. All that green, all that life. Goebbels painted a picture of a dying island, and we believed it because we wanted to." Kramer leans forward, voice dropping to a fierce whisper. "I saw their supply dumps in Tunisia, mountains of tinned food, petrol, ammunition, endless, and we were rationing water. When I flew over England, I expected to see the scars of our bombing. Nothing, not one cratered city from the air. London still stands, factories still smoke, ships still sail." He pauses, takes a breath. "And then this place." He gestures at the opulent room, the silver cigarette box on the table, the fresh flowers in crystal vases. "They treat us better than our own high command treated its troops in Russia." Von Thoma's eyes narrow. "Careful, Hans. Words like that." But Kramer cuts him off, voice raw. "No, I'm done being careful. Listen to me, Wilhelm. Germany cannot win this war. Not now. Not ever. The Americans haven't even begun yet. When they do..." He trails off, shaking his head. Silence stretches. Outside, a nightingale starts its song. Von Thoma stares at the floor, then finally speaks. The words that British intelligence has waited months to hear from a man of his rank. "You're right," he says quietly. "I've known it since El Alamein. Montgomery had everything, tanks, planes, men rested and fed. We had sand and hope. Hope is not enough against that kind of strength." He looks up, meeting Kramer's eyes. "The war is lost. Completely. Irrevocably." Kramer exhales, as though a great weight has lifted. "Then what are we fighting for?" Von Thoma's answer is barely audible, yet the hidden microphone catches every syllable. "For nothing." The two men sit in silence as the cognac bottle empties. No anger now, no defiance. Just the hollow recognition of truth spoken aloud for the first time. Upstairs, in the secret listening room known as the M Room, two British officers yank off their headphones and stare at each other. One scribbles frantically. General von Thoma states unequivocally that the war is lost. The transcript will reach Churchill's desk within days. Annotated in red, "Highest importance, confirmation from Senior Africa Corps Commander." Over the coming months, more generals arrive. Men captured in Tunisia, Sicily, Italy. Each new face repeats the pattern. Initial disbelief at Britain's resilience, then quiet conversations that feed the microphones. The bugged rooms of Trent Park become one of Britain's most valuable intelligence weapons, yielding details of V-weapons, U-boat tactics, and the crumbling morale of the Wehrmacht's elite. But the story of these shock generals doesn't end in 1945. Some will choose paths that lead to collaboration, others to quiet reflection, and one, years later, will return to that green England, not as a prisoner, but as a guest. Spring 1945. The war in Europe crumbles to its end. Berlin burns under Soviet shells. Hitler's body lies in a shallow grave outside the Führer bunker. In Trent Park, The generals listen to the BBC broadcasts in stunned silence as the Reich collapses. One by one, they are moved to other camps, some to Grisdale Hall, some to Island Farm in Wales. But the conversations recorded in those bugged rooms have already done their work. Transcripts helped Allied planners anticipate German defenses in Normandy, track the development of V-1 and V-2 rockets, and understand the fractures inside the Wehrmacht's high command. Von Thoma, Krühl, and Kramer are repatriated in 1947 and 1948. They return to a shattered Germany. Cities reduced to rubble, millions homeless, the once mighty nation divided and occupied. The green fields of England haunt their memories like a lost dream. Von Thoma settles quietly in West Germany, rarely speaking publicly of his captivity. He dies in 1948, just months after release, his health broken by the long years of strain. Krühl lives longer, becoming a businessman, but he too carries the silence of a man who saw too much. Hans Kramer, the youngest and most outspoken, chooses a different path. In the 1950s, as West Germany rebuilds under Adenauer, he begins to speak carefully but honestly about what he witnessed in Britain. He describes the market squares, the abundance, the quiet strength of a democracy at war. To younger officers rebuilding the Bundeswehr, he warns against the dangers of propaganda and overconfidence. But the most poignant echo comes in 1955. A warm July day in Hertfordshire. An elderly Englishman tends roses in the gardens of what is once again a private estate, Trent Park, returned to its owners after the war. A car pulls up the familiar gravel drive. Out steps Hans Kramer, now in his 60s, graying but still ramrod straight. He is accompanied by his wife and a British veteran who once guarded him, a man who wrote to him years after repatriation, inviting him back. Kramer stands on the terrace where he once paced in fury. The lawns are as manicured as ever, the cedars taller. He walks the paths he knew so well, touches the stone balustrade where he stared into the night and admitted defeat. His host offers tea in the same sunlit dining room. Scones appear, clotted cream thick as memory. Kramer smiles, actually smiles, and raises his cup. "You know," he says in careful English, "this place changed everything for me. Not the microphones, not the questions, the truth outside these windows." His former guard, now a friend, nods. "We hoped it would." They walk the grounds together. Children's laughter drifts from a nearby village, much like the sounds that once pierced Kramer's propaganda armor. He pauses by the lake, watching dragonflies skim the water. "I came back," he says quietly, "to say thank you for the humanity and for showing us, even in captivity, what we were really fighting against." No cameras record this moment. No hidden microphones drink in the words. Just two old soldiers from opposite sides, standing in the English sun, closing a circle that began with burning tanks in the desert and a flight over impossible green fields. The story of the shocked German generals fades from headlines, buried in classified files declassified decades later. But in quiet corners of history, books, documentaries, the memories of intelligence officers who listened in the M-room, it endures as one of the war's strangest victories. Not one with bullets or bombs, but with buttered scones, daffodils, and the undeniable resilience of a small island that refused to break. And somewhere, in the rolling Hertfordshire countryside, the grass still grows thick and green, indifferent to the ideologies that once tried to burn the world.